And welcome to the Cygnes District 4-H Leader Training for April 2025. I'm Karla Hightower, I'm the 4-H agent for the Cygnes District, and I'm happy that you all joined us. So, kind of a quick agenda of what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about the use of the Clover and co-branding again, right here before fairs. Becoming a Spark champion. So we're going to kind of finish our conversation that we've been having the last 2 times or 3 of these about Sparks and what we can do in our clubs and with our 4-Hers to help them discover their Sparks and develop their Sparks. We're going to talk about horse project requirements, fair dates and deadlines, some publicity guidelines that are coming out from the state now. I have some summer activities, and I wanted to give a little bit about Kansas State Fair, which I know it seems like it's a long ways away, but I know we have fair, and then state fair pre-entries are due right away, and there's always seems to be a little bit of confusion over what can go and what can't go and some of those deadlines. So if at any time you want to ask a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or I will probably pause during the middle of some of these too for questions. And or you can try to write it in the chat, and I will try to keep track of that today. All right, so our first thing is use of the Clover. So I think some of you have been through it before, I know, because I do this almost every year, just because it's a good refresher. We do have, the 4-H Clover, we want it to be appropriately used. And so as we're designing t-shirts for our clubs, as we are doing our booths or banners, it is important to have the Clover on there, the 4-H Clover, but we also want to make sure that we do it appropriately. So some things you need to know is you want to use the whole emblem. So you do not remove any leaves. You do not place text or any other images over or on top of the 4-H emblem. You have to keep it upright, so you can't tilt it and do different things. It's supposed to have that little US, or I think it's 18 USC 707 or something like that on there. And then you also don't want to distort it or get a different proportion. So there are a lot of rules with it, but part of that is so that everyone recognizes it as a 4-H Clover, and we got that brand recognition across the United States and really across the world even. So that's the use of the Clover. So as you're doing your banners and booths or fair parades or anything like that. Now, on top of that, we also have our K-State Research and Extension logo as well, and the Clover. And in the past few years, it's probably been almost 10 now, because time flies with me, K-State's really been pushing that the Clover and K-State Research and Extension go together. So brands are all about relationships, and using the KSRE 4-H Woodmark will help strengthen the impact of the 4-H program in Kansas, and also give recognition that 4-H comes from K-State Research and Extension. So since October, it hasn't been 10 years, since October of 2017. So the Woodmark is required on all 4-H marketing and publishing materials, including print, digital, apparel, and merchandise. This requirement applies to all designs created at the local, county, district, area, and state levels. And there is an entire Woodmark policy that you can read if you want to, and I'd be happy to share that with you. The big thing that we find in this is that there are only certain people who have to go through, there's a process you have to go through to be able to print the K-State Research and Extension logo, because K-State owns K-State and that logo. And so you have to have certain things that you have to have certain dealers or print shops that have went through that process. I do know we have at least one locally. There's a lot of the bigger ones, if you're doing shirts from Custom Ink or for imprint, those type of things have it. Unfortunately, like some of the businesses locally here does not have that. Also, it's important to showcase the relationship of 4-H to K-State research and extension, whether it is visually through logos and brand identity or verbal and written reference through television, radio, YouTube videos, press releases, etc. So, it's really important that we actually do those things. So as you're thinking, and some of you might have already ordered t-shirts, and I know that I'm kind of late to the ball game on this, but just thinking forward, try to have this on there. I know sometimes, like if you go through Shop 4-H to get your t-shirts, which I know they will do some shirts that have already logos, but they'll just put your name on them on certain ones. They're probably not going to have that K-State Research and Extension and 4-H, and you're probably okay with that since they still are a 4-H entity. But as much as possible, we really need to try to have that K-State Research and Extension with the 4-H on our items. So with that, any question about use of the Clover or co-branding with K-State Research and Extension? Okay. All right, so moving on. I think all of you have been on my trainings before, so you've known in the past few months, I've been introducing the 4-H Thrive model to you and discussing how to help youth find their sparks. 4-H members who have sparks feel like they belong, build relationships, and are engaged will develop the skills under youth thriving. So they'll develop these skills here. And then both of these things lead to, so they'll develop these skills here is what I'm talking about. And then both of these will lead to them going on up the STEM and developing developmental outcomes and long-term outcomes. And we hope that really the idea is by the end of a 4-H career, they're starting to see those long-term outcomes. Because, for the most part, if they start at 7, we're going to have them for a good 10 to 12 years. And they can start seeing that academic success. They're doing their own civic engagement. They're employable. They have happiness and well-being, positive self-concept, all those things. So that's kind of our plans with that. Oh, let me erase all that stuff. So, so before we begin our last lesson on sparks, just a quick review that sparks are those things you're really passionate, kind of where everything, all these circles meet. So it would be right in this area here. That was a really squiggly X, sorry. So you have emotions that you appreciate about yourself. You have things that you're passionate about, causes or issues that matter to you, people, places, or things that matter to you most. And then our sparks are right here in the center where all of those things kind of meet. And they're what brings us happiness, gives us passion, makes us feel good about ourselves. And, I will be honest, probably one of mine is youth development. And that's one of the reasons I chose the career I did. Some of my other things are maybe, quilting or reading, those type of things as well. So it can be a variety of things. And it's just important to know what you're doing. And it's important for us to help our 4-Hers actually recognize what sparks are and what is their spark. And it can change over time. Maybe they start out at 7 as maybe just making friends as a spark. But by the time they're in, 14 or 15, maybe they really enjoy leadership and holding offices and things like that. So, anything can be your spark. It can be stuff outside of 4-H as well. So hopefully you had time to start on the Sparks Champion plan that I sent to email earlier today. I want to kind of go over some things and kind of ask you all those questions. If you haven't, that's okay too, because we can talk about it during this session and kind of see. So, what strategies will you use or have you used? Because I know some of you have already started on it to help youth learn about their sparks.
So I just flat out asked the kids one 4-H meeting what they wanted to learn about, what would spark their imagination, and heard a lot of the younger kids. A lot of them said visual arts, like art projects, things like that. So we did a couple months ago. We did the wire art that Karla did after school. I bought the supplies from her so that our club could do that as a club, and we had almost everyone participated. Um, Lots of different sculpture ideas, and it was a good time. Everybody loved it. So that's what we've done. That's all so far.
Okay. Any other ideas of how you would help youth learn about sparks?
Also, I think that them sharing about what they're doing may help for like the other kids to think, oh, maybe I want to do that. So sharing I think is very helpful, especially at certain ages.
Yeah, I do believe that. Having other kids, share what they're doing sparks imagination and ideas. So yeah, those are good things. Both of those things are good. Sometimes it's just asking. Sometimes sometimes you kind of have to look because maybe what they think their spark is might not always be the spark that they have either. So maybe you can tell because they just light up when they're doing something, and they might not think they're any good at it. Um, and it doesn't have to be something they're really good at either. So that's the other thing. It's just something that brings them joy and that they find they're passionate about, they want to learn more about. Okay. Any other strategies on how to help youth learn about sparks? Okay. All right. So, what specific things will you look and listen for related to spark identification and development when working with you?
I think with our club, we have a lot of variety in the activities that our members are interested in. So I think it's just kind of, when different people do different talks about things, and just kind of paying attention to who's, intrigued and who's asking questions about it, and just kind of just watching their mannerisms and how they respond to different activities.
Yeah. It's kind of that same thing when I was talking about just the strategies. They might not know that that's their spark, but you might be able to tell because maybe they get excited about something, and maybe they're usually a quiet kid and they get a little bit louder, or they're actually one of the kids that maybe is usually not really paying attention and has a short attention span, but their attention is grabbed by that topic or that project that they're doing or activity. So those can all be ways to kind of tell and identify. Because, like I said, sometimes, especially those younger kids, they might not know exactly what their spark is yet, and it can change over time as well. Anything else on that one that anyone wants to add? Okay. So, what barriers or opportunity gaps are present for youth that you serve to identify and develop their sparks?
I think it's hard for parents that may not have been involved with 4-H to learn what all is available in 4-H, because we even had a meeting last month that was joined, and we had some of our kids do project talks, and it amazed me how many kids didn't know certain projects that were available. So, and I think it's the parents too. They focus on one thing, and then they get good at it and then they're just comfortable there.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, we have 35 different projects, I believe, or maybe over 35. So that is a lot, and that list is long. And I know one of the biggest questions I get is, what project goes with what at the fair? So even when they're going around fair, even though we've tried to label stuff and tried to put it, with what project, and in the fair book now, I even have to, be in the floriculture exhibit in floriculture, you have to be in horticulture and landscape. It is confusing and there's a lot of information there. So um, that is probably a barrier, and just, knowing what they are doing. So we're trying to combat that, at least I am, and I know you guys are too. But it's going to be an ongoing process. And they also have to kind of take some initiative themselves to some extent as well and ask questions.
That is very true.
Anyone else have a barrier or?
I think time is a big one. A lot of these families, at least in our club, have, multiple children. And a lot of times that means going different directions all the time. And just, in order to excel at something, you have to be able to spend time with it. And I think sometimes that's a struggle for some kids that are busy.
And I would agree with that. I mean, I know there's a lot of time commitments that everyone has, and a lot of different things you can do nowadays. And sometimes it's hard to find that time to do that. But it's also important that we do try to let our 4-H members or youth find their spark and actually dedicate some time to those sparks. But it's not the easiest thing to do, and you have to have parents support and that type of thing too. So anyone else have a barrier? Okay. We kind of talked about reducing or eliminating those barriers a little bit. I was kind of giving you that answer. But do you have any other ideas on how to eliminate or reduce some of those barriers?
Well, Jess and I have talked about, especially in our club, we have a lot of new families, and we've kind of talked about when a new family comes in that one of the leaders is kind of assigned to the family to help them with any questions they may have, or explain things to them.
And yeah, that is a great idea. I've always kind of pushed to have like if you have a big enough club, which a lot of our clubs are not big enough right now, but if you can get somebody that's not quite a leader, but maybe is a new family coordinator or a new member coordinator type thing, that would help too. But if you can do it with leaders, that's great too. But yeah, that's an important thing, to have that communication, to have somebody sitting with them and welcoming them, and answering questions as it comes. Because if you didn't grow up in 4-H, our meetings sometimes can be very intimidating too, just because we're doing parliamentary procedure and there could be a 12-year-old leading it, and all those things. So those are great ideas. Anyone else have a idea to reduce or eliminate barriers that we talked about, or another barrier that we haven't talked about yet? All right, so the last question is, what specific phrases or sentences will you practice using when communicating with youth that will help them understanding the meaning of sparks? And this is probably where I struggle the most too. And I've been learning about the Thrive model and sparks for several years now, probably about 8 as well. So, but what phrases or sentences should we use? So one of the things that I'm trying to do is help is actually use the term spark. Um, and and when I do that, I might try to actually, I need to do a better job of it. But projects can be your spark. Holding an office can be your spark. There's lots of things that can be your spark. Sometimes it's not 4-H related, um, although almost anything can be a 4-H project. So even if your spark is, maybe playing ball, or maybe you really enjoy softball or volleyball or running, health and wellness project, you can take those as part of your health and wellness project. So, but yeah, just trying to use that term sparks and explain it to our families and our kids on what what a spark is, and help them kind of develop those sparks and find those sparks. And maybe you'll have to point it out to them that, hey, is this maybe one of your sparks? Because the other thing is they can have more than one. So, okay. Any questions so far about 4-H Thrive and model? I know we're a small group today, and 2 of you are from Mound Builders, and it looks like you guys have kind of started on that. Julie, do you have any questions or ideas on how you're going to do it in your club?
No, I think it makes sense. It's just, the specifics of implementing it and the exact phrasing will be a little tricky, but like you said, I think it's just starting to use the term,
yeah,
in your communications, and people hopefully will just catch on from there.
Well, and I think it might not be this year because we're getting ready into the really detail, but I think next fall I'm going to try to do some things with like the leadership team and maybe even 4-H council on it as well, so that our teams and our officers and leaders kind of understand what the Thrive model is and what it kind of means as well. So that help, but I also need you to help me reach those other kids that aren't coming to leadership team or 4-H council necessarily. So, all right. With that, we have went through the Thrive model on the Sparks part, and I think next year we get to tackle maybe relationships. So, anyway, with that, I'm going to go into horse project requirements, and I don't know how many horse people who are in the horse project are in your clubs or not, but there is a new horse identification certificate. I have been told that it looks almost the exact same as the old one, but there is some change to it, and they are not allowing us to use the old one anymore. So those are due June 1st. We've been trying to get the word out, but just so you know that if you have members in your club that are in the horse project, they will need to fill out a new horse identification certificate, and those are available on our website or on the Kansas 4-H website. The other thing for our fairs is you must have completed the horse safety webinar by June 15th, I believe. I think it's June 15th, not July 15th. One of those days. But I think June 15th, and we will get information out on that as well. Most of the horse people know that they have to do that because they also have to do it if they're going to go to state fair. Okay, so fair pre-entry deadlines. And I did not spell entry correctly. Sorry about that. So the Miami County Fair pre-entries are due July 1st, and the fair dates are July 19th through the 26th. The Lynn County Fair pre-entries are due July 15th, and there is, I think, August 2nd through the 8th or 9th. Yeah, 9th, I believe. So those are kind of the fair entries. We did the fair kind of update last night. I tried to go over some things for newer families too. So if you can encourage them to watch it, they might want to skip some parts if they're not about it, because we did kind of go through, like, there's some livestock check-in times that are different for sheep and goats, and weigh-in times and things like that. So if you, those are kind of at the beginning and some of the new changes. And then I went through the schedule and gave them some information on how to like enter photography and foods on that Monday morning. That, you know, it's come and you check in at the table and then you wait in line for the judge and you sit down with the judge. So those are all on that webinar or video that we recorded. And it is on our Facebook page. It should be on I don't know if it got on our website today, but it'll definitely be up there by Monday. And it is on our YouTube channel for the Marais District as well. So there are several ways, and if they need me to, I will send it to a link to him as well. So please encourage all your families to kind of see that, and especially listen to the schedule, because there are some changes. One of the other things I do want to mention on the Miami County Fair is if you have anybody that is in interior design and architecture. Oh, no, sorry, wrong one. Yes, there are changes to that one too, and we kind of talked about that last one. I'm talking the performing arts. The schedule in the front of our fair book is wrong, but on the page it actually says, because we moved that to Tuesday morning from like 9 to 11, I believe, instead of doing it Thursday afternoon like we had been doing. So that just kind of puts it in with all the other judgings that we have going on Tuesday morning. Okay.
Karla, do we have a fair book already for this year?
It might be on the website shortly, and it is at the printers right now. So yes, we're
Okay.
hoping, my hope is to have fair books by our next 4-H council meeting.
I should have it on the Miami County Fair Board website by tomorrow-ish.
I can't do it on the website. I have to have the paper one with all my highlights on it, or it doesn't work.
I get it.
Yeah, they're not quite out yet. They are at the printers, and we're hoping to get them in the next couple weeks. So, and I'm pretty sure we will, because they're usually pretty good about that.
You just said fair book. I was like, wow, that's early. I just wondered. Thank you.
Well, we did this last year, and we're trying to do it early, and it worked well last year. We had lots of compliments, and I feel like there was a lot less confusion and questions being asked from superintendent or two superintendents and things at fair. So we're trying to get it to where we kind of have it out here by 4-H the second week in May now, instead of waiting till the middle of June to get it out. So, and luckily our fair board is working with us on that. So they're doing a great job on that as well. All right, publicity guidelines. So there's a couple new policies in place at the state level on publicity. And when you went into 4-H Online this year, I got asked a lot more questions about publicity. I don't know if they're going to keep that. I'm kind of hoping they don't on a couple of them, but I just wanted to kind of go over some of the things, because there are several families who said disagree to parts of the publicity things in 4-H Online when they enrolled their kids. I have sent out emails to them and kind of double checked to make sure that's really what they were wanting to do and everything. And I know as club leaders, you guys don't actually get to see those permissions. So I will try to make sure. So I guess there's two ways of doing this. You can contact my office, and we will try to get you a list of who all in your club isn't giving permission, or you can ask them directly before you do anything and have them. You could just kind of do a quick permission slip thing to do it. But if they do not give you permission, you cannot post name or photo on any social media. And I know a lot of our clubs have Facebook pages that are closed, which is great. But the whole thing is those aren't necessarily private, because somebody can save photos off of them. They can also share on their personal pages, and it becomes an open post and those type of things. So we have to treat those the same way. My other thing is we do not want to post photos with names of anyone under 13. And my rule is that you just don't post photos with names of our 4-H members. I do that very rarely, and usually it's key awards and scholarship recipients get their names posted. Other than that, no one gets posted on social media. And we're not just talking social media with these. Also, it's websites, it's anything like that as well. Most of the ones that I've talked to, they're okay with us doing a group photo, or a name, but not together. So definitely, try to do groups. Don't try to, put just one person on. I do sometimes try to get that close up of a kid, like at day camp doing something. I won't put their name on it, but I also try to make sure I know the kid and the family and know that it's okay to use that. But the big thing we're having problems is some of them said no to their last name, their first name, or their club. And that means that we can't even put their things on entry tags at fair because that's a public place that people can see their name and their clubs. So that's kind of where we're at now. A lot of those, like I said, when they figured that out, they came back and said, no, that's okay. You can use that. But I wanted you guys to be aware as your clubs go that, we really want to make sure that we are protecting our kids. We don't want anything to happen to our kids. And it is a parent's right to decide those things. And I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes on that. So we just want to make sure we're doing what our parents request. And if a parent, I've told several of my parents who I've talked to about this in this past month, that, if something gets put on social media or up and you want us to pull it, we will pull it as soon as you call us, and we will make sure it comes down. So that's the other thing, is that if somebody complains about it, just go ahead and take it off and get rid of it as soon as possible. And hopefully nobody else shared it or put it on their pages. So anyway, I don't have a lot of information on that except for those things.
Karla, I got a quick question.
Yes.
So would this apply, like if we took pictures within our meeting and then printed them out for, like, say, the historian for their book? Is that okay? Or no?
Yeah, I think it is, because it's not a public. You understand, it's
Okay.
the historian book is basically in your club. It comes into judging at our judging event in the fall, but it's not a fair where somebody can leaf through it, right?
Right.
Okay. So yeah, I think you're okay on a historian book. This would be I guess the thing that might get you is if you put it as if it's a digital historian book on like a Google Drive or something like that. Well, but even that should be okay.
As long as it's not shared.
As long as it's not shared.
Okay.
And or public. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
It'd be a little different if it was setting it fair for people to leaf through.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But any other questions on this? Because I know it's kind of confusing for me, let alone everyone else. All right. All right, off to summer activities. So we have 2 day camps coming. We have a day camp on June 25th at the Miami County Fairgrounds, and it's Go to Space Day Camp. And then we have Stirring Up Some Fun at the Lynn County Fairgrounds on June 26th. So we are working on trying to get some flyers and registration out for those. I would say we should have those definitely by the 15th of May. So be looking for those if you have kids. Those are both for 5 to 11-year-olds, 4-H and non-4-H. So anyone can come and have some fun with us. The other thing, Kendra is doing some Say Cheese workshops, photography workshops. So she has one on June 18th at the Miami County Fairgrounds and one on June 19th at the Lynn County Fairgrounds. And They're going to have a photographer there that's kind of presenting, and they'll get cameras and SD cards, and they'll get to go around and take some photos, and then I think they will look at them digitally and kind of give some critiques and show what it is. And we are very lucky that the Michelle Bridges Community Fund offered us a sponsorship. So they are helping sponsor these days. And so I think the registration is $10 per person and include lunch. But like the SD cards and some door prizes and things like that are being sponsored by that community, the Michelle Bridge Community Fund. So and then I am hoping, no, I will have on June 10th at the Mound City office and June 11th at the Paola office, I will be doing an interior design and architecture collage workshop. And this is for the new interior design and architecture classes that we have added and that they've added at State Fair. So we're just going to do some different mood collages, and I'm hoping to have some stuff out about that here about May 15th as well. So there'll be more information coming on that, but that is kind of a save the date. And but all those things were in our newsletter as well. All right, Kansas State Fair. So Kansas State Fair is coming quick. It is September 5th, I believe, through, I knew I'd close that. It's 2 weeks. So it'll be the 5th through, sorry, as I pull up my calendar, 5th through the 14th of September. So livestock pre-entries are due online by July 15th. Horse pre-entries are due online by August 1st. And all other pre-entries are due to the extension office by August 14th. Basically, to go to State Fair, you need to receive, well, livestock you have to nominate or have registration papers. Horse, you have to do some things. You have to have some qualifying events that you have documented for your horse project. But the other things that you do, like rabbits, poultry, any of our indoor, or most of our indoor, I shouldn't say any of them, most of our indoor items, the miscellaneous department's kind of different. They don't actually go. Those you have to have received a purple ribbon to go on to State Fair. And you have to be 9 and older, 9 to 18 or years old, but 4-H age, 9 to 18. So if you might let people know as they're preparing for the Miami County Fair or the Lynn County Fair that those things are happening, and they are eligible to take those on to State Fair. Now, there are a couple of things. There are sometimes some limits on how many you can take in a project. Like photography, you're only allowed one photo, or food, you're only allowed one food item. So there are limits like that. But as far as that goes, purple ribbons have the chance of going on to State Fair. And just a quick reminder that if you guys are doing any kind of fundraising, I'm supposed to have approval of that. I'm not going to say, oh, no, don't do it. But it's just good for me to know what's going on. So if you are planning on doing a fundraiser at any time, please email me and with your fundraiser and let me know. And I'll send a quick email back that said, yep, got it. Sounds great. Good luck. So I had one come in today, and that kind of reminded me that I don't get them very often right now. And so I probably need to remind my leaders that that is still something that they need to do. And, it's not us micromanaging you. It's just so we know if somebody comes in and goes, well, a 4-H club was selling door to door or doing this at Walmart. And it's just good for me to know so that I can answer those questions or say, yeah, that was a 4-H club. And it was all good and up and that type of thing. Because I know in Miami County, there was one time where supposedly a circus was coming to town and they were selling tickets to for the 4-H clubs. And, I don't we never received any of that money. And I'm pretty sure that was a scam and they were trying to use our name. So we're trying to prevent that from happening. Okay, any questions or other comments, concerns, issues you have? Okay, well, thank you all for being club leaders and getting on our Zoom today. I hope you have a good evening. And if you have any questions or need anything, please just let me know. I'm here to help.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Karla.
Have a good night.
Thank you.